If I asked you to stop for a moment and think about your favorite anime, there may be a million things that cross your mind. Maybe it's an image of your favorite characters, a specific moment that stuck with you, the opening song that won't leave your head, a certain line of dialogue that you haven't been able to forget. Maybe you didn't even think of any of these, and instead, something completely different rose to the top. No matter the answer, they all have one thing in common. Inside the vast sea of responses are the work of many individuals, stitched together to create the impact that left you changed. But there is an underlying process behind it all. A process that takes time, effort, and resources to bring you these unforgettable memories. And you might ask yourself, how do you even make something like an anime in the first place? Well, there are a multitude of roles that work together to create a show or a film. Writers, directors, actors, animators, composers, editors, just to name a few. And you may not realize this, but a lot of well-known anime have hundreds of people involved in the production. For example, Jujutsu Kaisen had over 400 people working on it, maybe even more. I mean, look at this! And each person is in charge of a very specific thing that, when put together, forms the anime that you watch and enjoy. But creating an anime is not an easy thing to accomplish. You worry about the idea you want to work on, the people who would be involved, the materials you will need, the deadlines, progress speed, production cost, etc. It is even more of a struggle if you're only a small group. But that is why I want to talk about a certain series that I had my eye on for a while. And well, if you read the title, you'd know that this video will be talking about a little indie anime called Dungeons and Television. The story revolves around a party of 4 members: C, Marida, Shikiri, and Salvatore. The party is tasked with a mission from the commander to venture into the deepest area of the Grand Half Moon Cauldron, a dungeon that resides in the kingdom of the party, and broadcast their findings to all the people in the world. A great feat that the kingdom has dreamed of for a century. All of this in popularizing the concept of live television. Meanwhile, a rival group, led by Lenny, opposes the idea of television and will thwart their efforts by making people realize that actual film is the ultimate medium. While I would say more to the story of the series, unfortunately it only has one 5-minute episode up on YouTube as of making this. But the story of the anime itself is not what I want to talk about. It's instead about the creation of Dungeons and Television and the journey it has gone through in the process. It intrigues me how a handful of people came together to create such high-quality work that rivals a lot of studio-made anime nowadays. And to really understand the beauty of Dungeons and Television, we must first start at the beginning. February 21st, 2023. Jun Chukan Bonta, sorry if I butchered it by the way, made his graduation project for Tokyo Koge University called His Voice. A short film displaying his talent and knowledge in cell animation and film, an old production method that's difficult to recreate nowadays. If that name sounds familiar, you may have heard it in some well-known works like Tubo's Goodbye music video, or Maken's first ending, Love 2000, which he had gone to work in after graduation. Fast forward to February 13th, 2024. Bonta made a post on Twitter expressing a concern that's been on his mind. Most of the work I get is modern stuff, but I really want to do a fantasy anime soon. I hope there's a demand for fantasy anime. Around 30 minutes later, he would make another post. I said anime doesn't need to be long, but lately, I've been wanting to make a full-length anime. Another user had replied to his tweet with interest. I just want to make it. I don't even know how to go about making it, but I might just want to give it a try anyway. It'd be nice if I could pull it off. Bonta and a handful of other people would work on a 2-minute film that would later be called Dungeons and Television. Combining his interest for fantasy and his knowledge in film, Bonta would make frequent progress updates to his Twitter page during production, showcasing his animations, references, illustrations, and techniques. With the help of production manager Nagasawa Chikyu, composer Nakasako Sakana, and photographer Nobuyama, he would complete his short film and, on April 19, 2024, announced its debut at Shinjuku Theater's Night of Indie Animation event. That announcement would also reveal the vocal talents appearing in the short film: Haneta Chika, Sakaguchi Hirose, Hoover Takashi, and other extras. All that was left now was to wait. April 27th, 2024. Dungeons & Television premieres at Shinjuku Theater. The reception was very good, which eased the nerves of an anxious Bonta. The short film released on YouTube the following day, surpassing 10,000 views in just 2 days. Bonta expressed his gratitude with a drawing of the main character, C, and her character sketch. Never would he have thought his video would reach that many views, let alone the initial 5,000 views he thought would have been great to achieve. For the next few months, Bonta would work on various Dungeons & Television related projects, including a visual book that includes information about the production of the short film and an introduction to the world of Dungeons & Television. He would also work with Tubo once again for the song Itai no Itai no Tondeike, creating the 3D circus background and some hand-drawn art. It wasn't until they caught the eye of the Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry that Dungeons & Television would turn into something much bigger. July 17th. The Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry provided funds for Dungeons & Television to be turned into a full series. With much excitement, Bonta made a post on Twitter searching for an animation director to work on the first episode. But it would seem that no one had taken up on his offer, as the next day, he would stress that no one had emailed him since the post was made, fearing if it was because the pay was too low. Despite the gloom of not finding an animation director yet, he would move on with pre-production on July 20th. Over the next couple days, he would struggle with his creativity, unsure of what to include in the first scene, balancing the lengths of cuts, having a lack of energy, and so on. July 22nd. Bonta's for hire post would find its way to Aohara Emma, who would take the opportunity to fill that role and bring Bonta's spirit back up. If you don't know, Emma has worked on numerous popular works like Frieren Beyond Journey's End, Panty and Stocking Season 2, Hoshimachi Suisei's Awake music video, and many others. Anyway, it wouldn't be until August 21st that Bonta would start posting updates on his storyboard, finishing it on August 31st. Skip ahead to September 10th. Bonta would reveal the current progress of Dungeons & Television, starting the production process. This would also be the day that Bonta reveals more about the reason for creating his series, linking it to the influence of Marcello in the Wilderness, an indie short film by Vab.png that was released earlier that year on February 12th. Since there was no studio to help with animation, the production of Dungeons & Television would instead have the help of individual animators that were scattered across Japan, with the use of Clip Studio. Come September 20th. Bonta announced that he will be selling the visual book he had been working on at Indie Anime Market 2024, which would be happening next month, October 5th and 6th. The Indie Anime Market event would come and pass, Bonta talking about his experiences there, grateful for everyone that showed up and bought his book. Emma would also make a promotional art of C to celebrate Dungeons & Television's involvement in the event. October 18th. He would post a few videos showing Blender animations that would be used as references for the vehicle that Lenny's group uses. October 20th. Bonta posts a drawing of the Grand Half Moon Cauldron. And no, it is not the Star of David, if you were wondering. October 21st. Bonta gives an update on the progress of Dungeons & Television, mainly revealing the issue of the team not having enough animators and currently trying to look for more. From October 24th to November 28th, Bonta would work on various background art for Dungeons & Television. If you have seen the first episode, you'll notice the extra details that you don't see in frame. During that time, he would also make cutouts of C on paper to create the stop-motion effects seen in the episode. December 7th. Bonta gives another update on Dungeons & Television, revealing that production has gone into the dubbing process. December 14th. Bonta would make a post on Twitter about the many things he did this year. In 2024, thanks to your support, I was fortunate enough to be involved in even more things in the previous year, including the ending theme for a TV anime and my own independent projects. It's quite extensive and I'm busy, so I don't have time to go back and review each one individually, so I've compiled them into this video focusing on my creative work. That same day, Bonta would make another post revealing that the story of Dungeons & Television, up to around episode 8, has already been thought out. But from there to the last 2 episodes, the story is still loosely planned. A week later, on December 21st, he would post a couple of pictures from a dubbing session for Dungeons & Television. But what is not shown in the photos is that Bonta's group had come into the studio with unfinished cuts due to that tight schedule. As the year of 2024 was coming to a close, Bonta would share one last artwork, the television set of Lenny's gang. Bonta makes the first update of the year for Dungeons & Television on January 8th, 2025, revealing that the dubbing for the episode is complete, a good amount of the scenes have been finished, and the opening for the anime has started preparations. He would make another recruitment post on January 13th, looking for more animators to help the production. This would be emphasized later with another post detailing the completion of the episode as well as a concern for help. From that point on, Bonta would get to work on mapping out the opening for the anime, which would be done via cell animation. On February 23rd, Bonta cheers with excitement as he announces the completion of the main animation for the episode. This would leave only the opening left to complete before having the entire episode finished. As we head into March, Bonta would start to experiment with the LPL Video Teleoper, a piece of equipment that was used to insert captions onto videos back before digital editing on computers weren't yet a thing. For the first 2 weeks of March, he would post images of his experimentation with the Dungeons & Television logo on Twitter. Then, on March 16th, Bonta would make a major announcement. The main episode for Dungeons & Television would premiere at the Niigata International Animation Film Festival in the State of Indie Animation event, which would be happening on March 20th. Attached to the post was a trailer for the episode, which revealed the opening theme for the series being performed by Haneta Chika, who also happened to be a singer. 2 days later, his experimentation with the teleoper would also lead to a different version of the trailer being released on Twitter.
この箱に人が入っているの？子供が母に尋ねた。彼女は笑ってこう答えた。荷馬車が行き交う大通りの向こうに変な塔が見えるでしょ？法律放送ギルドテレビジョン中継局？そう、私たちはダンジョンロケ隊。テレビジョンは知ってるでしょ？本当に生き生きとしたダンジョンの姿だ。視聴者が一番見たいものだよ。こんなチャチのマギトロニクスに負けるつもり？これよりダンジョンからの中継でお送りいたします。
Many people would attend the State of Indie Animation event, nearly filling it to capacity. Bonta made a post on Twitter expressing his gratitude for everyone that attended and mentioned the idea of compiling video footage he had been recording since last year's Night of Indie Animation event at Shinjuku Theater into a documentary. The only part that remained now was to complete the opening. The months of March, April, May, and June were all focused on creating the opening for Dungeons & Television, occasionally posting updates on Twitter and uploading images. Bonta would participate in a livestream with several other team members on Iyasakado's channel, going in depth on the development and completion of the episode. However, it is in Japanese only, so if anyone could translate it, that would be really great for us English speakers. As the creation of the opening was ongoing, Bonta would also look into working on creating a Dungeons & Television cosplay costume for street interviews, which would be used for the documentary. On June 6th, Bonta announced the completion of the opening, finally making Dungeons & Television Episode 1 complete, followed by the official trailer being released on June 14th. Alongside the Japanese version of the trailer would also be the English version uploaded by Griffin Puatu and Russian version uploaded by Soloway Studios. But the work on Dungeons & Television wouldn't stop there. During the month of July, Bonta worked on creating a prototype of a marketable plushie C, equipped with her signature OHG microphone. And, oh man, Bonta, please, I want to own this, please, Bonta, please! Anyway, Dungeons & Television Episode 1 premiered on August 9th on Bonta's YouTube channel, receiving a lot of positive feedback. A bonus short episode released alongside the premiere, expanding on the lore and history of television in the Dungeons & Television world. 4 days later, a documentary of the creation of Dungeons & Television was released, which was the same documentary that Bonta had mentioned several months prior. And over the rest of August, Bonta would share several concept arts of various objects and creatures shown in the first episode.
テレビについて今どう思いますか?
Television is one of the most effective forms of communication available. Being able to share ideas and information to practically anyone in the world in real time is such a significant feat that we've achieved as a society. But an average person in today's world would most likely not think much about how impactful television truly is in our history. And this would be a thought that Junchuk and Bonta would challenge with Dungeons & Television through a fantasy setting. The concept of combining classic fantasy with modern technology is one aspect I find intriguing about Dungeons & Television. Watching how Bonta utilizes his understanding on film and television to break the norms of fantasy is such a breath of fresh air for the genre. And I genuinely think that this anime sets itself apart from many other fantasy anime out there, not just because of what it's about, but also because of how a small team of 40 was able to bring this idea to life. Despite the size of the team, the tight deadlines, and the limited budget, Bonta was still able to put a lot of attention and love into this indie project to share with everyone who loves TV and to everyone who doesn't. And sharing the interest in film production, anime, and fantasy, I had fallen in love with the series and look forward to the 100 planned episodes in the future. I want to spread the existence and journey of this anime to hope that it entertains, educates, and inspires you to accomplish things just as it has to me. And I hope that this video motivates you to think about the question that Bonta asks with Dungeons & Television. What do you think of television right now? Hey everyone, I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching this video. I know it's a bit different from some of the other videos that I have on this channel, but I wanted to create a video like this for a little while, and Bonta had given me the opportunity to make something like this. So if you like what you saw and want to see more videos like this, go and let me know in the comments down below. And maybe subscribe to the channel so you won't miss more videos like this. Anyways, thanks for watching.